kind of nervous after seeing everyone's great slides, but here I go. And today I'm going to look at tracing Hawaii's trades apprenticeship pipeline from enrollment to exit. Every business you learn by doing. Andrew Yang. So I was born and raised here in Honolulu, Hawaii. And growing up, I would always read the news and didn't really understand much concepts ranging from bond markets, interest rates, or how macroeconomics works. So currently I'm studying in economics, or better known as econometrics, which is kind of like an intersection between econ and data science. We are taught to examine mechanisms behind outcomes, and we're guided by data over assumptions. So why SCIPE? It's because I really wanted real research experience, and I wanted to apply not only my econ framework, but learn more about data science to real Hawaii economic issues. And I'm really happy that we get to have the chance to do an individual project with structure, mentorship, and impact. So why I chose a project on Hawaii apprenticeships? I think a common advice I grew up hearing was to go into trades. And I think it's become increasingly more so with Gen Z job anxiety, unemployment, AI, and unclear pathways. And you'll often hear mentions of a skills trade shortage on the news. And while I was trying to research about this, a lot of suggestions are on a national level and never about Hawaii's apprenticeship system. So I wanted to dig into the data of how Hawaii's apprenticeship worked. And the question I had was, which journey worker occupation faced the greatest labor shortage, especially in Hawaii, and which apprenticeship programs actually feed those programs? The first data source I got was the registered apprenticeship database from the Department of Labor. They keep track of programs, occupations, and apprentices' progress, and they feature not only the US, but non-mainland states like Hawaii or other territories like Marshall Islands or Puerto Rico. There are some limitations when playing around with their data that needed data cleaning, such as redundant job titles. Another data I was using is from the State of Hawaii Employment Occupation Forecast, of which I'll be analyzing annual average openings to forecast job demand. And the totals assumes a 1-to-1 ratio, assuming for every person who exits or transfers requires one more hire. So there's kind of like a boundary where we can work with. Just to let you folks know, this is using annual average openings. So it assumes an even opening per year. But due to macroeconomic trends, such as interest rates, seasons and such, this can always be various. So keep that in mind. And it's meant to be illustrative rather than what you can predict for next year. I use Jupyter Notebook and VS Code run on my laptop, and I use Python and Plotly to help clean and merge the data together. As a privacy note, I will not be uploading the final data due to the ease of obtaining information about apprentices, and for privacy issues, I will not be uploading them on GitHub. However, I do plan to create an interactive dashboard with the data built in. Before moving forward, I want to talk about statistical reliability. I want you to think about it like restaurant reviews. The less reviews they have, the less confident you can be about the reviews compared to higher reviews. And the same thing applies to Hawaii's situation, where we only had 35 apprenticeship programs in total. And by filtering for minimum amount of people in that program, you get fewer amounts. So I'm sticking with 20, which I believe is a good trade-off between coverage and reliability. But like a restaurant, you might be skeptical of the reviews because there's a thing called selection bias, where say folks pay to have a high review for the restaurant. So you don't know the quality of the restaurant. The same can be said about programs. For instance, for Pearl Harbor Naval Shipyard, for their apprenticeships. They require a lot of filtering before the program even starts, including many exams, there's limited spots, so they get to choose the most competitive folks into their apprenticeships, and they also assign apprentices to trades based on testing. So the first thing on insights is the supply and labor demand, and we see here on a highlighted, I guess, green row, are what the Bureau of Statistics labeled as needing a training on their apprenticeship. And we can see here that carpenters, electricians, and plumbers face the highest shortage, with carpenters facing a 600 number carpenters per year below demand. If we have limited resources, I suggest we target the greatest demand of labor first, which is carpenters. However, there's some statistical, I guess, boundaries on that. I calculated using active enrollment of apprentices, so many programs don't report active apprentices at the moment. So keep in mind that the labor versus shortage programs are meant to be a floor and not an exact number moving forward. Furthermore, what's not often talked about is completion rates. For instance, I never knew that carpenters or electricians had a low completion rate below 50%. And so this opens up more to the conversation beyond just recruiting. How do we improve these programs in Hawaii? So at first, I created a Stanky diagram of which shows all completion and cancellation rates. And you can see there on the top, you can filter by occupations and by programs. That's where we can evaluate for occupations and programs. On above the Stanky diagram, you can see a funnel plot, and it's meant to compare programs in that occupation compared to the national average. It's meant to be diagnostic and not as a good or bad verdict. And as I said before, watch out for selection bias. So if you see that blue dot on top of the national average, that is per harbor. But as I said before, they filter apprentices before the program even begins. And they have a low amount of apprentices overall. So I am not confident in their quality as such. Another visualizations I've been using is the completion versus cancellation rate reported by fiscal year. As a word of caution, enrolled cohorts do not equal graduate cohorts. For instance, those enrolled in 2024 do not graduate in 2024. For carpenters, they take 4 years to usually complete. So for 2024's data, that's usually around 2020's enrolled cohorts. And I also use annual reports, annual enrollments to keep track of new enrollments and project how many people are completing the program. So we're going to compare between two programs, the Hawaii Carpenters Apprenticeship and Training and Associate Builders and Contractors. We can see for on the left-hand side, there's been improvements, but I would be cautious about taking it as, I guess, a great improvement in quality overall. This could be selection bias. It can also be based on stimulus. In 2020, there was low interest rate, so that probably caused a construction boom, and there's more work on hand for many of the apprentices. Nevertheless, this can prove as a learning opportunity for ABC. Another illustration I used was survival rate, of which I compare before 2021 and after 2021. This is important because before 21, about 50% cancellations were around year 2.4. And that illustratively, if we use $20 an hour and full-time work, that's around $100K per apprentice in training wages before they quit it. And this time in 2021 or later, about 61% of cancellation has happened by year one, and this drastically decreases financial loss and could be allocated towards existing apprentices. As we see here, this could be a sign of success with lower earlier cancellation rates early on, perhaps they allocate the resources, and it's the reason why for this boom in completion rates. But if we look at the data more closely, we can see 2020 has the highest number of cohorts for that year. And then they graduate in 2024 as expected. And there could be many reasons as to why. For instance, perhaps more friends to train with and keeps people in the program compared to the rest of the years. I did an OLS regression, and there shows to be no correlation between cancellation rates or completion rates after year one. So my recommendation is to think about how we could prevent avoidable loss of talent, right? And it's about matching. It's not about seeing it as a key performance metric to just push out people as early as possible. It's meant for folks to focus on what is driving cancellations between years 1 to 3, and to audit supervision and job placement quality during that transition period as folks get more responsibilities over the years. For demographics, there's some interesting insights I would like to share. Despite making only 11% of Hawaii's population, Native Hawaiians roughly take about 30 to 40% in the carpenter's field, and as well for other fields, being overrepresented, which is an interesting phenomenon, which could lead back to culture or other socioeconomic reasons. And contrary to my own personal assumption, the majority of cohorts are ordered in 25. And I think this opens up more conversations about you don't have to think your life is over if you didn't went to apprentice school after high school at 18 years old. Areas for improvement, I wish I disaggregated by islands, identified greater social economic variables to identify causation and such. And I hope to upload the dashboard as an interactive website on GitHub. Overall, I'm really happy to have the opportunity to learn an issue for Hawaii more deeply and a chance to learn hands-on. I learned a lot on Python that I wasn't really familiar with, including Stanky diagrams or survivor rates. To end it with a quote, no effect like a problem exists without a structure producing it. These are my resources. You can visit my GitHub or visit my slides on Google Drive. And I want to give a huge mahalo to Hawaii Data Science, the National Science Foundation, to all the SCIPE cohorts here in SCIPE, Dr. Alex Stokes, Shivani, and Dr. Sean Cleveland. And a huge shout out to my group 4, the Bulls and the Bears. Thank you, Marissa and Aaron, for being my mentors. And thank you to Wilson and Ben for being my peers. Mahalo for listening.
Very nice. Very nice bit of analysis. Thank you. Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, it is gonna be open source because what I'm telling you is you basically have a lot missing data. For example, we got another cup before and after, like have a degree before, like you have a degree going to the how much cost, and also after finish the program have you have to have a course that doing the whole apprenticeship. Like for example, some YouTube I listen to them, and they basically have problem. Like for example, that you pay out of pocket to do the whole fitting card thing.
Sorry, I didn't get all of that.
Yeah, you're missing a few database. For example, the first database is you're missing a pay how how much it cost to go to a degree, and after the after getting a apprenticeship degree, and how much cost to you to pay out of pocket to do the whole apprenticeship thing.
I'm not too sure about that. Sorry I couldn't answer your question.
Yeah, fine.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Sean, any last comments? We'll wrap up.
No, I was super impressed with all the presentations and all the hard work that folks have put into these projects. So, I mean, yeah, everybody should be super proud of all the things that you've done and all the things that you've learned. And I really hope, as everyone's a lot of folks have stated that you got a lot out of this program, and we'll hopefully continue to leverage all the different things that you've learned and put together here. And hopefully, this work, yeah, you'll be able to take some of it and continue some on to some of the things you do in the future. So yeah, so thank you all, and again, huge thanks to all the near peers, the mentors, the cyber infrastructure professional folks, faculty, Alex, Shivani, everybody. So great job.
Good job, everybody.